So the kids here are basically half zombies that can suddenly go feral over sensory overload, but the soldiers trust them enough to strap themselves into wheelchairs and not already be stark raving mad each morning? What if they get hungry at night and smell a soldier getting sweat from spanking it in the barracks? They bring the half-hungry kids into a class environment every day to gauge their intelligence. You'd think the majority of the military base that regard these kids as abominations would want to run other procedures to see their physical capabilities and use them accordingly, but no. We just have to, it's for their brains. Dr. Caldwell, aka Dr. Cruella DeVille, presents riddles to Melanie such as Schrodinger's cat. As intellectually riveting and narratively symbolic as it is, I think her hypothesis on mimicry of observed behaviors should be blatantly obvious for a kid that's able to mimic everything you do at this point, and most of the kids in her pursuits for a cure. But no, we have to go above and beyond here.
Come on, you friggin' abortions, let's go!
You should probably stay on the half-zombie kids' good sides and not call them abortions. Remember, all it takes is one good bite or maybe even spit or them sneezing from these kiddos and you'll be turning into a spore-ridden zombie, so try to be a little bit more nicer. Which, on that note, why the hell aren't any of these soldiers in this base better equipped to be handling carriers of this cordyceps infection that could be spread through bodily fluids? They're not going to wear any kind of masks to prevent breathing in potentially sneezing particles, coughing particles, or them spitting to enter their orifices, nor do they have any armor or padding to prevent getting bitten in case a kid slips out of confinement somehow. I realize they are short on supplies, but anything outside of guns and berating British vocabulary would be advisable and sensible. Sergeant Parks spits on his arm to showcase the reality of these kids and how quick they can go feral. So the scent of saliva can trigger their zombie side, but wouldn't sweat do the same thing? Sweat makes a much more pungent smell than saliva, especially being in a cramped underground bunker when you're around them for hours. I'm sure some sweat would be happening. Miss Justineau sneaks into Melanie's room to, I don't know, get her out for a walk after she was abused. Melanie worriedly says she smells nice, and Miss Justineau continues to unbind her. Why? You literally just saw a few hours ago the half-zombie kids all going full zombo over just a smell. You hear her comment about how nice you smell from a zombie kid about her liking your smell and just smile about it and continue to free her? Why? And why are there 0 guards posted near these half-breeds? You would think one soldier would be tasked with overseeing them to prevent one sneaking out and infecting the base. Have they not seen 28 Weeks Later? Come on, England, or United Kingdom, Britain. Oh my god, I just realized I don't know the difference. I am so sorry, Fish. But anyways, get your infectious zombie diseases better regulated, okay? She was carrying a tube of E-blocker gel to mask her scent, meaning she is fully aware of how smells trigger them, and she still pulled this stunt. Earlier, Melanie picked the number 13, and the student of that number was taken away. So she picks her own number of 4 and is carted away. You would think the Dr. Cruella DeVille would ignore that and want to keep the prodigy child alive for further research and other purposes. But oh well. We see the full scope of the military base as a horde of zombies are flooding the fences, looking like an urgent scenario. You would think after so long that better measures would be in place in case large hordes appeared. Maybe better barricades or methods to poke them in the head with bladed or sharp objects through the fence instead of wasting ammo, and maybe have better defenses besides chain link fences. Despite what seems to be an emergency situation, the sergeant continues wheeling Melanie to Dr. DeVille because what sergeant actually helps armed efforts? They are extracting the brains of the children one by one to create a cure? Why not extract something from the spinal fluid like a spinal tap or something that doesn't kill off your limited pools of test subjects, especially the kid you consider the main ingredient, this prodigy child with all the gifts. The kid woke up from anesthesia. Apparently there's an immunity or something there. Maybe experiment with that or something? Speaking of experimenting, a large portion of men out there experience balding as young as 35, but with today's sponsor Keep, Keeps, clinically proven, research-backed treatments to stop hair loss are more than just experimentation. Looking to prevent hair dropping off your head like the human population and the girl with all the gifts? Maybe you're gonna give some sweet loving to those follicles on your scalp to not end up bald like the Darkseekers of I Am Legend. Keeps has you covered across all euphemisms of hair loss prevention and balding with routines that work for you, spanning assortments of specific products and treatments to meet your conditions and hair goals. And what's better for a guy that's halfway to looking like Moist Critical, but make 5% of the amount of videos to stay at home to do nothing else? All I do is just stay at home. Keeps has got me covered as well, and delivers all my hair needs straight to my front door. It can do the same for you, as you can easily subscribe with refill reminders to keep you on the straight and narrow, unless you got curly or wavy locks. Then that analogy doesn't quite work. But hey, it all just works. And hair loss stops with Keeps. To get 50% off your first order, go to keeps.com/wow or click the link in the description. That's KEEPS.com/wow. Thanks Keeps for keeping the sponsorship of the video. Now let's keep on keeping on and get back to the sins. The military base sirens start sounding off and the doctor's assistant starts shutting the metal doors, yet doesn't pay attention whatsoever to what's coming so she can get bit. I'm surprised there wasn't more than 2 guards protecting the doctor that they all think can easily make a cure if given enough time. But oh well, she should be fine. Let's have 2 armed guards haul off this dainty little teacher whose eyes are filled with mace. I'm sure the doc will be safe while hundreds of zombies are already at our front door. Dr. DeVille stabs the zombie in the head repeatedly with a shard of glass and gets a deep cut in her hand because apparently the most important person there isn't packing any kind of heat. You would think the most important doctor on this campus would have like a pistol or something in a zombie apocalypse. The assistant starts turning immediately and we see firsthand that full zombies pay no mind to the half-hungry kids. You would think the doctor would have utilized some of the kids with these gifts, stuck a muzzle on them and had soldiers take them to supply areas and have the kids scavenge for supplies without having to worry about them getting bitten. But oh well, didn't matter. Gotta teach them the periodic table, useless mythology, and crack their heads open later on, just like the American school system. Melanie breaks out and sees the chaos of the Hungry's outbreak, although not a single soldier here attempts to actually survive and instead just sits out in the open, not running or looking anywhere they're going, so they can be attacked from any angle. The soldiers that carried Miss Justino off earlier have apparently gotten this far in the Hungry breach while holding the teacher upright without being attacked or bitten. Oh, so one of the soldiers can attack her to piss Melanie off. Seriously, how have none of these 3 been attacked or bitten yet? Melanie latches onto the Asian soldier and bites out his throat. Earlier, these soldiers didn't consider these children as human, but now they're gonna start hesitating to shoot them in a life or death situation, and knowing she could very well be feral. Actually, she is very feral. She is biting out the throat of one of your fellow soldiers. Oh, I'm losing my fucking language over here. While the Asian soldier is being eaten alive by Melanie, the black lady soldier refuses to shoot as well and simply goes over to pull Melanie off him. You have zombies all around you. Everyone is dying. Why are you hesitating to shoot? Especially knowing that your comrade is definitely bitten and will soon turn. So friendly fire isn't really a concern at this point. But nope, gotta get yourself killed. Melanie suffers from post-gut clarity and decides to pass out. Miss Justino shakes off her concussion and picks up the unconscious Melanie and escapes with her. Again, there are hundreds of zombies everywhere. What is stopping them from attacking her, especially in the minute she was basically incapacitated? A military truck of soldiers rolls up and just stops so the zombies can eat them more easily. Yeah, that's a tactical advantage. Right when the zombies finally realize the teacher exists and start to chase after her, the sergeant rolls up in an armored truck and runs them all over just in the nick of time. Wow! Miss Justino shuts the door just in the nick of time for zombies to slam into it, cliche. Thankfully, a random soldier opened the gates and got eaten alive before he could make it back to his car, so the main cast could escape through the still barricaded, overrun military base. Good for them. So Dr. DeVille, the sergeant, Melanie, and Miss Justino all ended up in the same truck despite being in completely different different areas when all this shit went down? I guess the zombies can't smell plot armor and they all have quest markers to get where they need to go. Lucky the one time the doctor decided to take Melanie out was the day the zombies broke in, so all this could happen. This apocalypse is set 20 years into the future. As always, I'm surprised they still have running vehicles with fuel this late in. While rummaging through what supplies the truck had, a soldier discovers a mask he says was used when capturing the half-hungry kids back in the day. An important bit of lore and precaution that actually makes sense to why there's masks in the truck, -1 cent. Sergeant Parks says they use hollow point rounds so there is less blood splatter when they shoot the infected. A fair and well thought out precaution, minus another cent. Or it would be if these people that are professing that they don't need to get blood on them actually had fucking protection over their eyes and mouths, as he describes that blood can spread the infection. Would you act like it's an infectious disease and wear shit accordingly, you daft bastards? They pull up at a river to get water, and a private shoots at a noise in the trees, showing a lack of trigger discipline and not confirming a target. The sergeant reaffirms he should have had his suppressor on. Just one quick question. Why didn't the sergeant, who knows his way around the Hungries, make sure that all their weapons weren't suppressed before leaving the vehicle? Maybe you should have checked that before getting out. After the gunshot heard around the world, the entire cast just sits there, staring at nothing, until the sergeant starts screaming to go! They're coming! They might know we're here! Oh my god! Go, go, go! You don't want to at least loudly whisper that in case the zombies don't know the exact location of the gunshot? This isn't Left 4 Dead where the whole horde knows exactly where that noise came from. Suppressors would not make things this quiet. The private gets bitten while pinned down and doesn't turn until held at gunpoint by the sergeant. When everyone else gets turned in 30 seconds or less upon being bitten, it's because we gotta have that scene in a zombie movie where a guy goes, "Oi bruv, I'm not bitten, just nicked myself on a rock and bloody stings, isn't it? Mind if I take a bite out of it?" They head to London, and the hordes of Hungries aren't responsive on their feet, a reaction to the fungus trying to conserve energy in their host since they're not always capable of eating. An interesting concept, although it makes me wonder how these infected have stayed alive for 20 years without consistent food and water, even if they do hibernate. Good thing the Hungry pushing the stroller with her eyes closed doesn't bump into any zombies and wake them up here. The doctor stops the stroller to check its contents, and there's a rat eating a baby's corpse. These Hungries tend to eat any animal they can, but somehow this rat that is making some audible noise crawled into a moving stroller and continuously fed on the body without waking any infected? How is there a baby corpse to even eat at this point? Again, there isn't an exact time frame in this movie, but the book is set 20 years in, so how would there be a semi-fresh baby corpse in a stroller 20 years into the zombie apocalypse? You know, I can reason why the doctor stopped the stroller to check and maybe find a half-hungry baby for her obsessive research purposes, or tried to see more into the psyche of these infected and see why she was pushing the stroller. It's understandable, but why would she gasp loudly at a rat in the middle of a bunch of sleeping Hungries? Why? These few suppressor shots would be heard by every zombie, not just one after every shot. Suppressors are not that quiet. They're basically created so you don't go deaf in a home invasion scenario or something. Not only that, but the sounds of a loud grunting zombie running and slamming dead into a metal staircase would have definitely woken up the horde here. He fires a non-suppressed pistol multiple times and loudly, and no zombies come? As soon as they get inside the building, they don't check the perimeter and just start talking out loud? Why not check if it's safe before making any noise and letting your guard down? Dr. Cruella describes finding half-hungry children back in the day when out on supply runs, saying they are partially immune to the fungal pathogen and that newborns ate their way out of their mother's bodies. As neat of a concept this is, how would a human baby eat its way out of a mother? How would a hungry baby survive on its own and capture and eat other living things as an underdeveloped feral potato for years? There's a lot of questions here that only lead to more questions, and when I think of this, all I can really think about, as Cruella describes zombie babies, is this. They all rest in the hospital for the night. I'm surprised Melanie hasn't gone hungry, since she really only has had 2 bites in the last 12 hours, and there being a bunch of sweaty adults around would tantalize her taste buds. Melanie proposes the idea to go out and find supplies and a route for them. She walks outside and opens the barricade loudly, and none of the zombies wake up to the sound of it. No, Kitty, no! I said it in my Why You Wouldn't Survive video, and I'll say it here. There's no way an outdoor cat in a zombie apocalypse would be caught by a child so easily. I see cats on the street all the time, and they will bolt if a human even comes within 30 feet of them. But this one just says, fuck it, eat some pussy, kid. And I'm gonna put on one more sin because it's my channel, and killing off a kitty is against my religion, and that religion is Danny DeVito and his cat apostles. She finds a barking dog, doesn't eat it, which I don't condone dog deaths either, but earlier in the movie she obsesses over a picture of a kitten, so why would she eat a cat and not a dog? And she is able to pick it up and walk away with it. Wouldn't a dog this long into a zombie outbreak not trust anything human-like, considering all hungries will eat any animal they can get their hands on? Dogs would not trust humans at this point. The dog is whimpering the whole time it's being held, and no hungry awakens until it starts running away. You would think the whimpered sounds of what sounds like an injured animal would attract their attention because that would be an easy target, but no, the sound of a dog scampering away, that's what evokes the horde. Oh, remember how I said the zombies from earlier didn't wake up when other zombies started attacking? Well, now they all do because of the sound of a small dog running, because we needed to give the main cast a way out safely without having to worry about the infected. Melanie returns more bloodied, saying she isn't hungry anymore with her mask off. The sergeant doesn't give 2 fucks and puts the mask back on and binds her hands. Thank God at least one of them is staying sensible, because I honestly thought they were going to let her go on without a mask on. So, -1 sin. Melanie talks on a walkie-talkie through the streets at full volume. No hungries even budge at these sounds. I realize they can smell she isn't infected, but you would think the sound of a walkie-talkie going, "Thank you, over now," would at least jolt them awake.
Do you want a cat?
I already had one.
Fuck off! We see the next stage of the fungus's life cycle. Utilizing the biomass of hundreds of the infected, has grown to consume a skyscraper. But more so, it explains why there are no infected nearby while the main characters travel. It's nice to see the reasoning there, and for a zombie series or show or movie or game actually has reasoning why there's no infected in the area. -1 sin. Dr. Dalmatian Skinner picks up a seed pod she says contains spores of the cordyceps that will infect anyone that just merely breathes in these particles. So what does she do? She bangs it against the concrete like a fucking primate to test if it has a tough shell. Girl, what if your old ass sepsis suffering ass desperate for a cure ass was wrong and that bitch cracked open in your face? Are you fucking stupid?
Yes.
They stumble upon a fully functioning mobile research lab with solar energy, because how else would the character arc of the doctor trying to find a cure ever develop if they didn't find this MacGuffin a day into walking through London? Melanie starts having cravings, so she goes outside and somehow catches a pigeon? Did she mutate and hunter pounce that thing? How is she catching all these outdoor animals I've desperately tried to pet on the street my whole life? Christ, dude. Why the fuck would I care about Dallas Mavericks? I don't watch sports. Private Gallagher was sent out by himself to do a supply run? Why not do what they did earlier and have Melanie do it instead of risking him getting bitten by stragglers? Dr. Corella has had this bandaged up injury the whole time, and she is in real pain from it. Nobody had stopped to check in case it was a bite. Yeah, she would have definitely turned long ago, but still, homie earlier got popped upon sight of a little blood. The doctor never got questioned. Okay, so she's dying of sepsis and blood poisoning, but doesn't attempt to treat herself while Melanie is out. She wants to save resources in order to extract Melanie's brain and spine so she can repurpose it. What? You're gonna perform that kind of procedure while nearly passing out and synthesize the gray matter and spinal fluid, create a vaccine, test it on a subject, and all that before you die of blood poisoning? What is going on in your head? Melanie stumbles on a bunch of feral hungry kids as they primitively start to hunt Private Gallagher. Melanie says half-hungry kids can smell them even with E-blocker gel on as they recognize the smell. Either way, Private Gallagher goes inside this dark abandoned building alone without his walkie-talkie? Why? Radio communications from the outpost beacon that they have been trying to get to chimes in last second to say they too are being overrun by the infected and everyone's dying. It's 20 years into all of this, and you're telling me two of these separate military camps, heavily fortified, fell within days of each other? How? They all start to leave to save Gallagher. Now, why put yourselves in this situation and have a guy go out on his own in the first place? I'm still not getting over that. Gallagher is casually eating snacks and looking at girly mags. You're not gonna make sure the place is safe and have your gun drawn and ready for anything that might pop up? And here we see one of the feral, half-hungry kids waving a dead rat at him and starts walking away, and he starts slowly walking towards this kid. You do know what hungry kids are and what they're capable of. You were at that base. Why would he casually approach one of these kids so sympathetically? Gallagher pulls out a frag grenade as he's pinned down and threatens to self-destruct if they attack him. And he just lets them eat him. I don't know about you, but I'd rather die in a blaze of glory instantly rather than having a bunch of disgusting children touching me and ripping me apart. And as horror movie tradition goes, the first to die in the group is a black guy. And they said, hey, that was so nice, we're gonna do it twice.
Dirty little fucker.
We just want to live. Everyone wants that.
I get why the girl says this, but man, fuck off. It sounds like the clone girl from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom when she goes, "They're just like me." Your friend is literally carved open like a fucking pumpkin on a Halloween or a watermelon by the pool at the summertime. Shut your literally bloody mouth. The primitive hungry half-bees are all waiting outside. You would think after their prior ambush, they would have ambushed this group inside the grocery store, as it would be easier to, I don't know, ambush and kill them for food that they've been doing like this for years. Melanie walks up to them and starts screaming, intimidating most of the kids. She has lived an entirely sheltered life in the base, but suddenly is able to communicate and show dominance over all of them the first time seeing any of them? How is that possible? She handcuffs the alpha hungry kid, despite again never showing abilities to do something this sly in a combat scenario versus a creature that spent its whole life fighting and surviving outside. How is that possible? I get that she's an observant type and can do this stuff just by looking at it, but I don't remember the soldiers ever handcuffing somebody in the middle of a skirmish like that. This just came out of nowhere. During all of this, none of the zombie kids attack her or the healthy survivors while she beats this alpha hungry kid in the head with a baseball bat. With all that said and done, Melanie drops the baseball bat as they all leave. Why leave the one thing that gave you an advantage over the half-hungry kids? That seems to be the thing that made the kid an alpha. But instead, all she has to do is go, "Ugh!" and they just back off. They return to the mobile research lab and the doctor knocks them all out with gas so she can operate on Melanie. Wow, good thing for her, she has everything she needs for that right here. Melanie wakes up and Dr. Dog Disrespect figures out infected kids have the fungus metabolize oxygen for its host, so they don't need to breathe, barely at all. Man, if only the doctor that has spent so many years researching these kids, she was obsessed with researching these kids and she couldn't figure that out. She didn't figure to just test gas on one of the kids. No, just crack their brains open every once in a while. Instead of just talking about Schrodinger's box and memorizing fucking element numbers, you didn't think to experiment on them when you don't consider them kids anyways? Melanie pieces out and Dr. Dalmatian Abuse desperately follows her only to be surrounded by the primitive hungry children. Now that there's no screaming kid to tell him to stop, all these zombie kids have no issue surrounding and eating her. And it's really good because it's symbolic since she scientifically experimented on kids, but now the kids can culinarily experiment on her. Melanie lights the skyscraper of fungus on fire to burst open the pods and release the airborne spores worldwide. She wanted Miss Justineau and Sergeant Parks to stay in the airlock to survive. Sadly, Sergeant Parks doesn't survive and gets infected, but he gets shot, blah blah blah, but luckily, Justineau awakens to see the world outside is infested with spores, but she is safe in her sealed space. Melanie expects her to live an imprisoned life just as she did for so long. But there's one problem. What happens when the air filters stop working, or there's no spore-ridden food or water for her to consume? Uh-oh, didn't think of that, did you? The movie ends with the former test subject kids learning with the feral kids. Now, how did the former test subjects find their way here? And why would these feral kids agree to this after years of being nowhere near civilized society? All this girl does is go, ugh! And suddenly they're like, okay, yeah, we'll go to class, fuck it. Wow, wow, wow.
Okay, $19 Fortnite card. Who wants it?
More good women have lost a marriage into war, famine, disease, and disaster. You have talent, darling. Don't squander it.
Attention shoppers, outside today we have Cripple Fight outside.
You can breathe, you can blink, you can cry. Hell, you're all gonna be doing that.
Homer didn't scrub the spaghetti sauce off that kitchen with cleanser. The sick bastard licked those walls clean.
Well, getting the brain out was the easy part. The hard part was getting the brain out.